Welcome to the new video of NeuroPhilos. Get ready to dive into a gripping tale that will leave you breathless, thinking, and inspired. Whether you're here for the mystery, the drama, or the unexpected twists, you're in the right place. Make sure to hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe so you never miss another powerful story. Let's begin. The Mirror of Desire. Adrian stood alone in the soft glow of early morning, the hush of dawn pressing gently against the windows of his grandmother's old bedroom. The air felt charged, as if anticipation itself had taken shape and settled between the velvet drapes and the polished floorboards. In the center of the room stood an antique cheval, mirror its gilded frame, ornate with ivy tendrils and delicate blossoms. Though the gold leaf had faded in places and fine cracks webbed across its surface, the mirror still held an uncanny presence, as though it housed not only a reflection, but the echoes of every secret ever spoken in its presence. He approached the mirror with measured steps, fingers brushing lightly against its cool metal. His reflection stared back, a young man with dark hair tousled from restless sleep, sharp cheekbones softened by exhaustion, and eyes the color of summer rain eyes that bore witness to countless broken promises he had made to himself. Adrian's heart thudded in his chest, a familiar rhythm that had accompanied him through each cycle of indulgence and remorse. He inhaled deeply, seeking to steady the rush of adrenaline that always preceded his morning ritual of self-examination. Long as he could remember, desire had stirred within him like a restless tide. In adolescence, it had taken the form of pounding youth, flushed cheeks, murmured confessions on playground benches, the thrill of a stolen glance. Over time, that initial sweetness had curdled into something more voracious. He had learned to feed the hunger without question, dancing in nightclubs until dawn, surrendering to the magnetism of strangers, chasing the electric pulse of attraction like a moth to flame. And each time he fell, he collected a fragment of shame, tucking it away in the crevices of his memory until the sum of these shards threatened to fracture his sense of self. Adrian lifted one hand to the mirror, fingertips hovering just above the surface. He remembered a lecture in Jungian psychology, delivered by Dr. Marcus Reinhardt, who spoke of the shadow, the unconscious aspects of personality we reject and hide, only to find them erupting in ways that undermine our best intentions. The shadow, Reinhardt had intoned, is where our repressed desires dwell. It is neither evil nor good, simply unacknowledged. When we refuse to face it, it governs us from the shadows, turning us into servants of impulses we scarcely understand. Adrian had nodded politely at the time, unable to imagine that the portrait of himself he had studied in the mirror each morning might hide more than fatigue and doubt. But now, as he studied his own gaze, he sensed the truth of Reinhardt's words. His reflection was not a static image but a living testament to the choices he had made, and those he would continue to make unless something changed. He reached into his pocket and retrieved a small, leather-bound notebook, its pages filled with uneven script and half-formed sketches. This journal had become both confidant and ledger of his inner life, a place where he recorded dreams, impulses, and the questions he dared to ask himself when temptation loomed too large. Turning to a fresh page, he wrote in deliberate strokes, "Last night, at the gallery opening, I felt the familiar pull. Helena's laughter, the tilt of her head, the curve of her neck, every detail became a summons. I slipped away to the balcony and nearly gave in. Why does desire feel like salvation and damnation all at once?" He paused, pen suspended. The words captured only a fraction of what he felt. The thrill of possibility, the terror of abandonment, the betrayal of self when he found himself repeating the same patterns, hoping each time for a new outcome. He closed his eyes, willing the chaotic swirl of thoughts to settle into clarity. Behind him, the mirror remained silent. No sage voice issued commands, no magical light illuminated hidden truths. Instead, it offered only reflection and unflinching invitation to face what had been obscured. Adrian opened his eyes and pressed the notebook against his heart. He drew in a slow, steadying breath. In the distance, church bells tolled the hour. It was time to leave, to step back into the world, and resume the performance of normalcy. He straightened his jacket, slipped the notebook into an inner pocket, and turned away from the mirror. Yet, as he descended the narrow staircase, he felt as though a junction lay before him. Continue along the well-worn path of desire's seduction, or forge a new route, one that required courage, honesty, and the willingness to be seen, even by his own soul. Downstairs, sunlight filtered through lace curtains, coloring the hardwood floor in dappled gold. The scent of brewing coffee drifted from the kitchen, promising warmth and routine. Adrian paused in the doorway, watching his grandmother bustle at the stove. Despite her advanced age, she moved with purposeful grace, humming an old folk tune, passed down through generations. He envied her untroubled serenity, her capacity to find solace in simple rhythms of day-to-day life. "You look contemplative," she observed, turning with a gentle smile and offering him a cup of steaming coffee. The porcelain mug, chipped at the rim, was painted with violets, an heirloom from a Europe long ago. "Thank you," Adrian replied, accepting the mug and cradling it between his hands. The heat seeped into his palms, anchoring him. "Just thinking about what?" she asked, settling into a chair across from him. He hesitated, then decided to speak the truth. "About desire," he confessed quietly. "How it can feel like a lifeline and a noose." His grandmother studied him with soft eyes. "Desire is a force, my dear. It can lead us to beauty, to creation, to connection. But if we chase only the spark without honoring the warmth of the hearth, we lose our way." She paused, tapping her fingertips against the mug's rim. "I've made mistakes in my youth, believing that fulfillment lay only in the next thrill. It almost broke me." Adrian felt the weight of her words settle around him, comforting and challenging all at once. "How did you find your way back?" he asked. She took her own sip of coffee, then placed the mug on the table. "I learned to listen to the rhythms of my heart, to the wisdom of friends, to the quiet voice that whispers when the world goes silent. It didn't happen overnight, but I kept returning to that voice, and bit by bit, I built a life rooted in meaning, rather than momentary excitement." He nodded, letting her story infuse him with hope. Outside, the day beckoned with its familiar demands. A meeting at the university, a lunch with colleagues, the gallery opening that he had promised to attend. There would be opportunities to indulge old habits, to flirt with the shadows rather than face them. And yet, for the first time in a long while, he felt the seed of intention take root, a determination to look beyond the mirror's reflection of lust and to seek the deeper reflection of his own authentic self. Rising from the chair, he kissed his grandmother's cheek. The fragrant swirl of her lavender perfume lingered, a gentle reminder of the care and wisdom that had carried her through many seasons. Adrian tucked his notebook into his jacket and stepped outside, the morning sun warming his face as he walked down the gravel path. He glanced back at the house, an island of stability in a sea of shifting desires. He realized that the journey ahead would not be easy. The mirror would continue to show him the lure of the shadow, but armed with reflection, intention, and the support of those who cared for him, Adrian felt ready to begin the work of integration, to transform lust from master into messenger, and to reclaim the harmony that lay waiting within. Shadows revealed. The evening air held a charged stillness as Adrian stepped into the industrial chic loft, its vast windows overlooking rain-streaked streets glowing with lamplight. Exposed brick walls were adorned with modern paintings in swirling hues of cobalt and crimson. The polished concrete floor echoed with the soft thump of house music filtered through strategically placed speakers. A cluster of guests milled around a black marble bar, where a bartender in a crisp tuxedo poured glasses of champagne that caught the low light like captured starlight. Adrian felt adrenaline ripple through him, an ultra-familiar tremor. He had attended enough gatherings in pursuit of momentary thrill to know how desire crept in. A curve of lips here, a sinew tensing there, the promise of connection shining in someone's eyes. He forced himself to breathe slowly, recalling the mirror's challenge and the questions he had written in his journal that morning. What does this longing truly seek? He moved toward a solitary corner beneath a massive canvas splashed with vibrant greens and gold. From here, he could watch without being watched. Observe the interplay of attraction and self-restraint playing out on the sidelines of polite conversation. As soon as he settled against the wall, a woman drifted over with purposeful grace. She was tall, with dark obsidian hair cascading down her back, and eyes that glimmered with mischief. Her name tag read Helena Cartwright, visiting scholar. Adrian Sinclair, she said, extending a hand gloved in black silk. She accepted his handshake with a breathless enthusiasm that sent a familiar spark through his skin. I've heard so much about your work on symbolic imagery. It's a pleasure to meet the man behind the lectures. He offered a polite smile. The pleasure is mine. Your presentation on medieval iconography was equally insightful. She tilted her head, the loose curls of her hair brushing her collarbone. You're too kind. Can I offer you something to drink? Champagne? Or perhaps something stronger? Adrian felt the old longing stir. Instinctively, he glanced toward the bar, then back at Helena's expectant face. He sensed the question that whispered in his ear. Here is your temptation. Will you succumb instead? He took a steadying breath. I'm fine, thank you. His eyes held hers steadily. Tell me what draws you to medieval iconography. Her lips curved in surprise, as though she hadn't expected him to shift the conversation so readily. It's the symbolism, the layers of meaning hidden beneath the surface. A single motif can reveal centuries of belief, fear, and longing. Adrian felt his heart slow its racing pace. He nodded appreciatively. Exactly. The image is but a surface. True understanding requires digging deeper. They talked at length of illuminated manuscripts, and the way knights and saints personified virtues and dark impulses alike. Of how modern artists riffed on those same symbols to express contemporary anxieties. With each thoughtful exchange, Adrian noticed the tension in his chest ease, replaced by the gentle warmth of genuine connection. Behind them, a group of revelers drifted toward a low table heaped with odd. Their laughter rang out like shattered glass, and the sight threatened to pull Adrian back into old habits. But as he scanned the faces, one veiled flirtations, another thinly disguised desperation, he realized he felt no envy, no pang of envy or hunger. Instead, he felt gratitude for the choice he had made to remain grounded. Just then, a familiar voice floated through the music. Adrian. He turned to see Dr. Marcus Reinhardt striding across the room, every inch the composed scholar. His tailored charcoal suit contrasted with the casual elegance of the loft. His salt and pepper hair framed a face marked by sharp intellect and kindly concern. Dr. Reinhardt, Adrian greeted, relieved to see his mentor. Reinhardt smiled, glancing from Adrian to Helena and back. A stimulating conversation, I see. He inclined his head to Helena. Forgive me for intruding. Mind if I join? Not at all, Adrian said. Helena gestured to an empty stool beside her. Reinhardt seated himself and regarded them both. Thoughtfully, I noticed, Adrian, that you've been practicing the mindfulness exercises. Adrian swallowed, recalling the moments of self-observation that had guided him the past fortnight. Yes, I'm trying to observe the impulse rather than be swept away by it. Reinhardt's amber eyes gleamed. And how has that served you? Tonight, Adrian glanced at Helena, who watched him with admiration. He sensed her genuine interest, not as an object of desire, but as an interlocutor. I feel present. I'm enjoying this dialogue without distraction. I'm not measuring worth by physical attraction alone. Reinhardt nodded approvingly. Excellent. He turned to Helena. You see, I recommended Adrian for your conference, precisely because he understands that symbols reflect the soul's longings, not just its lusts. Helena's smile deepened. I'm glad your insights enrich my own work. We've talked about the mythic serpent as a symbol of both wisdom and temptation. Tell me, Adrian, do you find your personal journey reflected in that serpent's duality? Adrian considered the question, remembering his recent dream of a silver snake shedding its skin. Absolutely, he replied softly. There was a dream of transformation through relinquishing what no longer serves. It felt like the old skin of my impulses was being left behind, making room for something truer. Helena leaned forward, her voice hushed. That's profound. I've always believed our dreams guide us toward integration. Adrian felt a surge of warmth at her sympathy. He realized that Helena embodied a balance. He sought intellect and empathy, desire and understanding. Their conversation carried a pulse of Eros, distinct from carnal craving. It was a creative spark that illuminated his shadow rather than obscuring it. Reinhardt rose, smoothing the lapels of his jacket. I'll leave you to continue. You both clearly have much to discuss. He offered Adrian a nod and drifted back into the crowd. Alone with Helena now, the loft's clamor felt distant. Thank you, Adrian said quietly, for listening, for speaking with me so honestly. Helena's gaze held his thank you, Adrian, for challenging me to think beyond surface symbolism. You've shown me that the images we chase also chase us, until we learn their deeper purpose. A soft swell of emotion passed between them, charged not with reckless longing but with mutual respect and budding camaraderie. Adrian felt the shadow of craving dissolve into something richer, a desire for genuine partnership of minds and hearts. As he excused himself to refresh his drink, he reflected on the loft's glow and the shifting patterns of human interaction unfolding around him. Previously, he might have seen only opportunities for indulgence. Now, he recognized the potential for transformation in every exchange. He returned with 2 glasses of sparkling water, one for Helena, one for himself. They toasted to dreams and symbols, to courage and curiosity. Outside, thunder rumbled. But within the loft, a new storm brewed. the alchemical conjunction of Eros and self-awareness, forging a path toward wholeness. That night, when Adrian finally returned home, he found himself drawn again to the cheval mirror. The reflection that stared back bore the same features: dark hair, clear eyes, but now those eyes held calm purpose instead of restless hunger. He opened his notebook to a blank page and wrote, "Tonight I saw desire as messenger rather than master. In dialogue and presence I found a spark that illuminates rather than consumes." He closed the journal and placed it on his bedside table, the candlelight flickering against its leather cover. As he slipped beneath the sheets, he felt the stirrings of dreams waiting to guide him further into the shadows and beyond. The alchemical conjunction. Adrian awoke the next morning with a sense of purpose, heavier than the familiar weight of craving. The dawn light sifted through his curtains, painting his bedroom in pale gold. His leather-bound journal lay open on the bedside table, its previous entries brimming with questions and nascent insights. Today, he would undertake the exercise that Dr. Reinhardt had prescribed: the conscious merging of desire and intention. The alchemical conjunction, Jung described as the path to wholeness. He rose and dressed in simple clothes, a crisp white shirt and tailored trousers, seeking to honor the ritual as seriously as a monk at his prayer. In the mirror, he traced the lines of his face, acknowledging both the hunger that once ruled him and the steady resolve now kindling within. Taking a deep breath, he closed his eyes and placed his hands over his heart, silently invoking the directive: "Merge my desire with purpose. Show me the path of true Eros." With journal in hand, he walked to a quiet garden behind his apartment, a small sanctuary of ivy-covered walls, rose bushes, and a stone bench warmed by the morning sun. He settled onto the bench and opened to a fresh page. At the top, he drew two overlapping circles and labeled one desire and the other intention, just as Reinhardt had shown him. Where they intersected, he drew a small starburst and labeled it Transcendent Eros. He paused, studying the diagram. In his mind's eye, he envisioned the two forces' lests, fiery surge and purposes, steady flame spiraling toward one another until their energies entwined. He then wrote, "When I feel the pull of craving, I will pause. I will note what I truly seek beneath the surface." As he penned the words, a fragment of his last dream drifted into awareness, a lotus blooming in a storm, its petals luminous against dark clouds. He sketched the petals beside his notes and wrote, "Dream, image, lotus, in storm beauty arising through chaos." Satisfied, he closed the journal and allowed himself 30 minutes of stillness. He breathed slowly, eyes fixed on the rose bushes whose blossoms shook in a gentle breeze. Thoughts drifted in memories of late-night rendezvous, the hollow aftermath of indulgence, the sting of regret. Each impulse he labeled without judgment: lust, fear, longing, emptiness. Then, for each, he asked himself, how can this energy serve my higher purpose? When lust appeared, his heart thundered. He felt the old temptation to seek fulfillment in another's skin. But instead of giving in, he wrote, "Lust could remind me of my aliveness. I will channel its intensity into creating art, poetry, music, words that resonate." When fear surfaced, fear of intimacy, of vulnerability, he wrote, "Fear highlights what I need to protect, my tender heart. I will honor vulnerability as the gateway to connection." When emptiness lingered, he noted, "Emptiness shows me where I have not loved myself. I will fill that space with self-care and genuine relationships." In this way, Adrian practiced the alchemical process. He observed the raw lead of impulse and transformed it into gold through conscious intention. An hour later, he returned home. For breakfast, as he sliced fresh fruit, he considered how he might apply this conjunction in everyday life. During a scheduled meeting with colleagues, how would he redirect the spark of attraction into intellectual engagement? In quiet moments of solitude, how would he welcome longing as an invitation to deeper self-understanding? That afternoon, an opportunity presented itself. He was to meet with a local poet, Miriam Blackwood, who sought his insight on symbolic imagery in her upcoming reading. Previously, Adrian might have anticipated more than professional rapport, perhaps even a flirtation that flared into something hollow. Instead, as he approached the cafe where they had arranged to meet, he practiced his inner directive. He visualized the two circles merging, the starburst of Transcendent Eros, glowing at their nexus. Miriam waited at a corner table, pen poised over a yellow legal pad. She looked up and offered him a warm smile. "Thank you for meeting me today," she said, gesturing to the empty chair. He sat and returned her smile with genuine warmth. "I'm eager to discuss your poems." As she read aloud one of her pieces of meditation on exile and home, layered with images of the sea and constellations, Adrian listened not only to her words, but to the emotions they stirred within him. He noticed a flutter of admiration in his chest, a gentle desire for deeper connection. But rather than latch onto the attraction, he translated it into appreciation for her creativity. When she paused, he offered insightful questions. What drew you to the image of a shipwreck as rebirth? How does the night sky reflect your inner landscape? Miriam's eyes shone at his genuine interest. I never considered that, she admitted. Your questions open up new layers. Adrian felt a ripple of satisfaction and eros that fueled creativity and nurtured another's growth. He realized that when desire is guided by empathy and intellectual curiosity, it becomes a catalyst for mutual enrichment, rather than a fleeting gratification. After their meeting, as he walked home through the park, Adrian sketched the encounter. In his journal, channeled admiration into active listening, created space for another's insight to unfold. He added a small lotus beside the entry, recalling the dream's symbol of emergence through turmoil. That evening, he prepared for sleep with another conscious ritual. He placed his journal and a small bowl of water by the bedside. He closed his eyes and again invoked the directive. Reveal to me the next step in true Eros. After a moment, he dipped his fingers into the water and lightly traced the two overlapping circles on his closed eyelids. He imagined them glowing, the starburst at their center brightening, until it pulsed gently beneath his lids. He drifted into slumber with a serene anticipation, resting in the knowledge that the alchemical opus continued even in his dreams. Deep in the night, fragments of images flickered, a snake shedding its skin to reveal a pearl, dancers weaving ribbons of light across a moonlit glade, a phoenix rising from ash. He woke before dawn, heart racing, and reached for his journal. Under the faint glow of the bedside lamp, he recorded the visions. Dream of renewal, snake gives pearl, dance of integration, mind and body entwined. Phoenix, transformation through fire. He closed the book with a sense of gratitude. The shadow of lust still stirred within him. He would never be free of its pull, but now he possessed a method to transform its energy, to harvest its fire for creative and spiritual growth. As the first light of morning filtered into the room, Adrian lay back and allowed himself a peaceful smile. The alchemical conjunction was no longer an abstract concept, but a lived practice. The delicate art of uniting desire with intention, of transmuting base impulses into the gold of authentic Eros. And with that, he surrendered to sleep once more, ready to journey deeper into the union of shadow and light. Integration of soul and body. The late afternoon sun filtered through the tall windows of the old lecture hall, casting long shafts of golden light across the polished oak floor. Adrian entered with measured steps, carrying only his leather journal and a small satchel of notes. Today, he would deliver his first public workshop on the integration of shadow and Eros, an exercise in uniting the physical surge of desire with the soul's deeper yearnings. As he sat up at the front of the room, he felt the familiar stir of nervous anticipation. But beneath it lay a steady current of purpose he had never known before. Students and colleagues filled the seats, some curious, others skeptical. He recognized Helena Cartwright in the third row, pen poised, eyes bright with encouragement. Dr. Reinhardt sat in the back, arms folded, offering a reassuring nod. Adrian tapped the microphone and allowed silence to settle, then spoke in a calm, clear voice. Today, he began, we explore what Jung called the union of opposites, the alchemical marriage of the body's passions and the soul's purpose. Many of us experience desire as a force that drives us toward fleeting pleasures. Yet that same energy, when consciously guided, can fuel creativity, compassion, and authentic connection. He stepped to a blank chalkboard and sketched two large circles that overlapped in the center. Desire, he labeled the left circle. Intention, the right. In the overlap, he drew a starburst and wrote Transcendent Eros. A hand shot up, a graduate student, pale and earnest. But how do we move from craving to creation? The impulse feels so raw and overwhelming. Adrian nodded. By learning to observe without judgment. When the pulse of attraction rises toward another person, a career achievement, or any object of longing, notice the physical sensations. The heat in your cheeks, the quickening breath, the knot in your stomach. Label them: lust, anticipation, fear, whatever arises. He invited everyone to close their eyes. Feel your heartbeat. If you can, place a hand over your chest. Then ask yourself, what does this energy want to become? What is its message? Soft breathing filled the room as participants followed his guidance. After a minute, Adrian continued. That question creates the overlap. You direct the energy from the physical into the intentional. For example, if lust arises, you might channel it into art or into affectionate attention towards someone in need, not to possess, but to honor. He shared his own experience, the gallery opening where Helena's laughter almost pulled him into old habits, and how he redirected that spark into genuine intellectual curiosity. Heads nodded in recognition. After the guided practice, Adrian distributed small journals. I want you to record every impulse of strong desire today. Note the circumstances, the sensations, and the question you pose to redirect that energy. Tonight, we'll reconvene and share. As the workshop ended, Helena lingered. Adrian, your voice today, it carried more than theory. You lived it. He smiled gently. I'm still learning. But each practice brings me closer to integrating every part of myself. Outside, the campus courtyard was lush with spring's first blooms. Adrian walked with Helena toward the cafe where they planned to debrief. The breeze stirred his hair and carried the scent of jasmine from a nearby plantaran, aroma that once would have sparked longing in him. Now, he simply appreciated its beauty. Over tea, Helena shared her journal, notes on the impulse she felt when greeted by a former lover at a conference reception earlier that day. She wrote how she paused, noted the racing pulse, and then asked herself, how can this energy serve my creativity and self-worth? She described channeling it into composing a sonnet that evening. Adrian scanned his own entries, an unexpected surge of desire when a student complimented his lecture, which he redirected into mentoring her research. The pang of attraction upon seeing an old flames photo, which he transformed into an act of gratitude for the lessons learned. Our impulses are messengers, he told Helena. By listening, we discover their hidden gifts. Helena's eyes shone. I feel more alive than I have in years, less at their mercy, more in partnership. He reached across the table and squeezed her hand gently. That is the union of Eros and intention. That evening, back at his apartment, Adrian prepared for another exercise, active imagination. He lit a single candle and sat before a blank page. He closed his eyes and envisioned the two circles again, allowing the starburst to glow until his entire field of vision shimmered with light. Then he imagined stepping into the overlap, finding himself in a great hall where paintings and sculptures came alive, each piece whispering a piece of his own story. He saw a statue of Eros, bow lowered, gazing not at a distant figure but inward, into a reflective pool at his feet. In that vision, Adrian recognized the merging of his own reflection and the archetype of Eros, the god inviting him to embrace desire as an act of self-love rather than conquest. He allowed the scene to unfold, noticing every detail, the scent of incense, the soft echo of footsteps, the warmth radiating from the sculpture's marble skin. When he opened his eyes, he sketched the hall in his journal and wrote, active imagination reveals that Eros resides within the self as much as without. The mirror between body and soul is now clear. He paused to savor the insight, then closed the journal and extinguished the candle. In the silence that followed, Adrian felt the echoes of longing no longer as restless sirens but as echoes of soul's yearning. The shadow of lust remained a reminder of the primal force it wielded, but now it stood in service to his creative and spiritual path. As he drifted to sleep, he dreamed of a great phoenix descending into his heart, its wings aflame with golden light, carrying both desire and purpose in graceful harmony. And in that dream, Adrian knew that the final stage of integration lay ahead, living each day with the alchemical union of passion and intention fully realized. Transcendence of Eros. The morning sun bathed the university auditorium in a soft, golden glow that seemed almost sacred. Rows of wooden chairs filled with eager students, faculty, and local scholars formed an attentive audience. Today marked the culmination of Adrian's journey, and he felt both calm and exhilarated as he stepped onto the stage. His leather journal tucked beneath his arm, a hush fell over the hall as he approached the podium. He paused, glancing at the two overlapping circles embroidered on a cloth draped over the front. Desire and intention. Their intersection alight with a radiant point labeled Transcendent Eros. This symbol had journeyed with him from private practice to public demonstration. And now it would serve as the framework for his keynote, From Lust to Eros, the Path of Integration. He inhaled deeply, allowing the stillness to anchor him. When he spoke, his voice carried both warmth and conviction. Thank you all for joining me today. Over the past month, I have walked a path from unrestrained craving toward conscious union of body and soul. It has been a journey of shadow and illumination, of reckoning and renewal. He clicked the remote in his hand, and the screen behind him lit up with an image of a storm-tossed sea. Waves crashing against jagged cliffs, under a blood-red sky. This was my dream 3 weeks ago, he said. A sea of longing, unpredictable and overwhelming. Yet within the tumult, I glimpsed a single Bacona lotus, blooming atop a crashing wave, a symbol of beauty, arising through chaos. The audience leaned forward. Adrian pressed the remote again, revealing his hand-drawn diagram of the two circles. Jung referred to the union of opposites as the conjunctio, the marriage of desire and intention. In practice, this means pausing when the impulse of lust arises, observing its physical and emotional textures, and then redirecting that energy toward meaningful creation, art, compassion, authentic connection. He shared his own experiences. The gallery opening where he transformed attraction into genuine dialogue with Helena. The workshop where students learn to map their impulses and translate them into acts of service or artistic expression. The active imagination exercises that revealed Eros as an inner companion rather than an external quest. Adrian's next slide displayed excerpts from his journal. Tonight, as I felt the old hunger flare, I asked, how can this fire serve my highest purpose? I wrote a poem instead of chasing pleasure. When fear of intimacy surfaced, I honored it as guidepost to my own vulnerability, writing to connect rather than to shield. A ripple of recognition spread through the audience. He sensed that many had stood where he once stood, drowning in cycles of craving, haunted by regret. Now, he offered them a map to the shore. He spoke of the phoenix, dream waking to the image of a fiery bird rising from ashes within his chest. That, he said, was the symbol of soul's victory. Desire reborn as purpose. Passion transfigured into compassion and creativity. Adrian concluded his presentation with a guided exercise. He invited everyone to close their eyes and imagine the circles of desire and intention merging. The starburst of transcendent Eros glowing at the center. He led them through mindful breathing, feeling the pulse of life in each inhalation and exhalation, and asking, what does this energy long to become? When they opened their eyes, tears glistened on more than one cheek. The room hummed with silent gratitude. Adrian stepped back from the podium, overwhelmed by the depth of shared humanity in that moment. Afterward, the hall emptied slowly. Students and colleagues approached him with words of thanks and questions. How to sustain the practice. How to apply it to grief, to ambition, to healing broken relationships. Adrian answered each with humility and insight, encouraging them to journal daily, to seek support in community, and to honor their dreams as guiding lights. Later that afternoon, Helena found him in the empty auditorium, gathering his notes. She slipped beside him and offered a gentle smile. You were magnificent, she said. Not just for what you taught, but for how you lived it. Adrian returned her smile, feeling the familiar warmth of deep connection, rather than the pang of craving that had once defined his interactions. I couldn't have done it without your support or Dr. Reinhardt's guidance. She extended her hand, and when he took it, their fingers entwined naturally, comfortably. No rush of desire threatened to overtake him. Instead, he sensed the quiet power of mutual respect and shared purpose. That evening, Adrian returned home under a sky strewn with stars. He paused on his balcony, gazing upward as a gentle breeze carried the scent of jasmine from the courtyard. Below, he felt a deep well of gratitude for the alchemical journey he had undertaken on, for the unfolding path that lay ahead. Inside, he lit a solitary candle and retrieved his journal. With steady hand he wrote, Today I stood before others and shared the union of my shadow and my soul. I felt no need to hide my scars or to chase approval. I spoke from the fire of transcendent Eros, and it burned with clarity, compassion, and creative power. He paused, closing his eyes. In his mind played the image of the lotus and the phoenix, the twin symbols of emergence through chaos and rebirth through fire. He knew the work would continue. Temptations would still rise, shadows would still whisper, but now he possessed a living map, a practiced method, and a community with whom to share both struggles and triumphs. He drew one final entry on the page. Eros is not enemy or tyrant, but guide and ally. In its highest form, desire leads not to emptiness but to wholeness. Placing the journal on his bedside table, Adrian extinguished the candle. As he slipped beneath the covers, he felt the gentle beating of his heart, steady, serene, emboldened by the knowledge that the union of body and soul had become his lived truth, and in the hush before sleep claimed him. He whispered a silent vow to steward the flame of transcendent Eros always, to transform every flicker of lust into a spark of genuine life. The journey continued, luminous and unending, toward ever deeper integration of light and shadow, desire and purpose, in the unfolding dance of the soul.